We are just a couple of months away from Leagues 5. There are a lot of great changes coming to this league, which make it set to easily be one of the best leagues yet. One of those changes being that the main raid weapons will now have the ability to drop out of any raid. This is great because you don't end up feeling locked into a region just to get a specific raid weapon. The wiki that's being built up for this league does bring up that there are multiple uniques shared between these drop tables. However, I cannot find any solid information saying that the full raid drop table is going to end up being shared, meaning I don't think you're going to end up being able to get Masori armor from the Chambers of Xeric. Even so, this is still a bit of a choice to make here when it comes to which raid you want to unlock, which is exactly what I wanted to go over today, taking a deeper look at each of the raid's rewards as well as other unlocks inside of that region. Hopefully we can dial in which of these is going to give you the most bang for your buck. If this video helps you out at all, then help me out by hitting that like button, but let's go ahead, cut this plug, and get right into it. First up, I want to talk about the first ever raid, Chambers of Xeric. This raid is absolutely packed with rewards that span all three combat styles. The main rewards we are looking at here, though, is going to be full ancestrals as well as the augury and rigor prayers. So if you're planning on being a mage in this league, getting your hands on that ancestrals as well as the prayer is going to be a must. When it comes to what else is unlocked inside of this region, there actually is not a whole ton item-wise. When it comes to training and league points, though, there is a ton here, such as the library mage training, the Slayer Cave and the Slayer Master Konar, the farming and woodcutting guilds, Tithe Farm, Winter Tot. The list goes on and on. I'm sure I'm still missing a few key things that are inside of Kourend. In the last league, Trailblazer Reloaded, Kourend had the second highest points of any region, and I anticipate it being much of the same this time around. And if I was planning on maging in this season, it would for sure be my go-to raid region. Next up, let's go ahead and move on into the Theater of Blood. The rewards here are practically entirely melee-based, with the Justicar armor, the Avernic hilt, Grazi rapier, as well as the scythe, which ends up being available at any raid. All of that is melee gear. The only mage weapon you have coming out of here is the Sanguinesti staff, and that compared to the Tumikin Shadow, or whatever ends up being the mega mage weapon that they have planned, is nothing. And for me, this makes the overall Theater of Blood rewards really lackluster unless you are dead set on using Justicar. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Especially with the scythe being dropped from any raid. However, there is still a lot to consider from this region, especially for melee inside of this league. You end up gaining access to things like the Slayer Helmet, Salve Amulet, Blood Fury, the Inquisitor Armor. That's not even mentioning some of the mid-level upgrades like Barrow's gear. There is a ton of melee items from this region to pique your interest, and on top of that, you end up gaining access to some crazy training methods for thieving and agility with pickpocketing the Vyres as well as the Hollowed Sepulchre. And honestly, even though the Theater of Blood is a bit meh when it comes to the rewards, in the grand scheme of things, the overall amount of gear and possible setups that come from Morytania is actually massive. I personally am planning on running melee this season, and now that I've kind of broken this down, I'm leaning heavily towards unlocking Theater of Blood and Morytania as my raid region. But let's go ahead and finally move on into the last raid, Tombs of Amasket, located in the desert. Since the Tumikin Shadow is coming out of any raid, the main rewards here is going to end up being the full Masori set. But really, that's about it. Item-wise, you do end up getting some handy unlocks outside of the raid, being access to Ancients as well as Temporos. I am somewhat discounting the Osmonton's Fang, but we have to keep in consideration the fact that there's going to be mega weapons coming out for each combat style, which presumably is going to beat out any of the weapons that we currently have in game. But that being said, out of the 3 raid regions that we have to choose from, this one is my least favorite. I am a bit biased here though, because in Trailblazer Reloaded, I picked the desert and I just did not have a whole ton of fun. All that being said though, there are some great training methods here that you gain access to for some niche skills. Like I said, you have Temporos, but you can also do stuff like blackjacking for thieving. You can make darts for fletching, which is really good. Mining sandstone, all of which provide insane experience rates, but none of that really sells me on this region. I believe you end up getting access to Virtus if you combine the desert with another region in order to do Desert Treasure 2 bosses, but even then, wasting 2 region choices just for an armor set does not sound appealing. However, if I was planning on maining range this season, I would most likely be forced into picking this region just for the Missouri armor itself. This, of course, could all change should we find out that the entire raid's drop tables are shared between each raid. Until then, though, let me know down in the comments which of these raids you plan on unlocking. But that is all the information I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I'm out.